Zimmer for the win.
Hans motherfucking Zimmer in the house.
Man, I can't believe after this 3-week expedition, man, we're finally at the end.
I can't believe that you did a Mortal Kombat Annihilation review on the Patreon yesterday, and my fellow homies blasphemed me in such a manner.
Okay, so a little bit of clarification here. So first of all, it was not me. Okay,
I know. I was there.
That's all right. And so for those of you who don't know, we recently dropped a new Patreon episode, which you guys can check out, patreon.com/superherohomies, where I had the homies Brendan and Oz on, and they helped me cover Mortal Kombat Annihilation. The movie may be garbage, but the review was excellent. There was a point at the beginning of it where they may have taken a few shots at Caleb concerning the new game that's being implemented at the beginning of every episode, the guessing game, where they guess with a series of yes or no questions which character or a series I have in mind. And they after their victory, they did succeed. They decided to take some shots at Caleb. Caleb, how do you feel about that, man? What's going on?
So two things. Number one, I was blasphemed, and neither of them would have gotten Solomon Grundy. I just want to point that out for the record.
That's true.
That neither of them would have gotten that.
Yeah.
Second of all, so three things, I guess, then. Mm-hmm. Second of all, I have decided for them to put their mouth where their mouth is. And to come right here on the podcast at some point in the near future, and I have challenged them to superhero homie trivia.
You've thrown down the gauntlet.
I have thrown down the gauntlet.
I mean, you are the reigning champion.
Reigning and soon to be defending.
And soon to be defending champion.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And, I think I think that they're going to answer the challenge because they really have no other choice.
They have no other choice. I mean, their dignity's on the line.
Right.
I mean, they can't go around talking shit and not expect to be called out.
Right. I mean, if they really got the mojo, then we'll see.
Yeah. And so the challenge has been issued, and at some point, sooner than later, I can promise you, that will be addressed here on the podcast. We will have part 2 of Superhero Homie Trivia.
As I like to say, we gon' see.
We gon' see.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see how that goes.
I do have a third point, though.
Okay, yeah, let me hear it.
My third point is that today, I have one for you.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm game. I mean, if I... Okay, see, the pressure...
Not the game we all just lost, but this game.
Motherfucker. God damn it. Okay. Fuck you and that game. Okay. And secondly, the pressure is really on for me because I feel like I have to be able to get this.
Yeah, I mean, as the OG homie supreme.
Yeah. All right.
I'm giving you 3 guesses, 15 questions.
Okay. All right. Man, I feel like the first one's going to be kind of a waste, but I need to ask. This is a comic book character.
Yes.
Okay. Has this character appeared in a live action movie?
No.
Okay. Is this character from the DC universe?
Yes.
Okay. Is this character affiliated with Batman?
Yes.
Okay. Is this character a villain?
No.
Okay. Is this character male?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. So I'm at 6 questions. I'm gonna burn my first guess already. All right. Is it Catwoman?
No.
Damn it. Too easy.
We just watched.
All right. Okay. And I'm trying to refresh my memory. When I asked if it was a villain, you said...
I said no.
You said no. Okay.
I think if it was Catwoman, I would have had to have given you a kind of. You know, like, I probably couldn't yes or no that.
Right.
I'd be like, it depends.
All right.
So you have 9 questions, 2 guesses left.
Okay. All right.
I have faith in you.
Okay. Goddamn. I want to burn another guess, but I'm like, no, I don't have enough information yet. All right. And you said the character has not appeared in a live action adaptation.
Not by name, no.
Okay.
And I'm not counting that as a question. That's just a clarification.
Yeah. Okay. Not by name. Okay. Okay. Oh shit. I gotta get this. This should be my bread and butter.
I think you'll get it, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. To your knowledge, has the character had any romantic interest in any of the main male Bat Fam characters?
Not specifically,
okay.
But then again, you know more than I do. But I'm gonna based on what I do know. Try not to give anything away here.
Yeah.
Based on what I do know, I'm going to answer that as probably not.
Okay. All right. Nope, that's a dumbass question. Not gonna ask that. Not gonna ask that at all. I'm not putting this out there, but I was gonna ask, like, man, is the character a skilled hand-to-hand combatant? I'm like, probably have to be. Okay. Is the character associated with the GCPD?
No.
Damn it. Okay. It goes for name Montoya then. I feel so confident. I was gonna throw that guess out there. I'm glad I didn't. All right.
Is it Montoya in Birds of Prey?
Oh yeah, and she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's in person. I forget about that sometimes.
I try to forget about that movie.
Yeah. And see, that's the problem though, because at first I was gonna guess like 3 characters from that movie. I was like, oh, it's got to be Huntress. Fuck. Okay. All right, but it is not a villain. It is female. She is female, and okay, associated with the Bat Fam. Probably not any romantic interest. Okay. Fuck it, I got a few more questions to spare. I'm gonna ask this dumbass question anyway. Is the character a skilled hand-to-hand combatant?
They definitely. Okay, so I can't yes or no that.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say that they are definitely skilled. I would not put them on the level with like a fucking Deathstroke or a Robin or like a
Gotcha.
Batman. I wouldn't put them on like a Dick Grayson level.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh well, shit. Yeah, that man, that clarifies a lot, man. And that's got to narrow the list down some too. All right, so I know that it's none of the obvious. It's not Barbara. It's not Batwoman. Let's see. I know it's not Huntress. It's not Renee. It's...
Which of your questions eliminated Barbara from your thinking?
I mean, the hand-to-hand thing, like, you know, I don't think that she's not gonna beat, like, you know, a Bruce or a Dick, but, you know, she's gonna beat some fucking hell out of some guards or, you know, thugs.
Well, but that's how I answered though. I was like, yes, but I wouldn't put them on their level.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Does the character have what could be considered superpowers?
No.
Okay, no superpowers.
You have 5 questions left.
Yep.
And 2 guesses.
Okay. Does the character... Okay, I need to ask because you might try to throw this fucking curveball out there by getting me to think of some other fucking character. Does the character have a terrible CW TV show?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't kept up with their slate as of late, but I'm pretty sure no.
Okay. So I got, what, 4 more questions?
That was just, I'm assuming that's just your way of burning Batwoman without burning a guess. And so...
Yeah. Yeah, that will eliminate Batwoman, and I'm not sure who's in the Birds of Prey TV show. Not Birds of Prey, but Gotham Knights.
I'm going to assume
there was a Birds of Prey TV show like back in like the late 90s.
I have not seen Gotham Knights. I'm going to assume this character is not in it.
Okay. All right. But I know it's not Batwoman. All right. She is such a cool character, just not in that goddamn TV show. All right. Okay.
I'm enjoying this tremendously.
Is she... Okay, and oh yeah, also yeah.
Is that an official guess? She's
no,
not
no.
fuck.
Yeah, she not.
I don't know about this character. DC got super desperate.
But I was gonna, because I was gonna guess Barbara again, but she was in the movie. I forget about this one too. She was in Batman and Robin, so it's...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that. So yeah, it's not her.
God damn.
I know I haven't stumped you. It's not possible.
Ooh, I'm gonna save face until you do.
I do see a little bit of sweat over there, a little perspiration. I got him sweating.
It's yeah, I mean, it's the shirt. The shirt's warm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I think one of my first questions I asked was this character associated with the... Did I ask if this character was associated with the Bat family?
You asked if they were associated with Batman.
Okay, yeah, I did ask you. Motherfucker, is this character associated with the Bat family?
What do you consider to be the Bat family?
I would say the likes of the Robins and scratch that. Guess, is this Carrie Kelly?
Yes.
Oh.
I thought you would get her way before then. Yeah, you got me with that shit. I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, eee.
But I mean, yeah, now I definitely see what you mean about like the hand-to-hand thing, because like, yeah, she's not gonna, yeah. Damn. Yep. Yeah, that was good. If I had that statue over there turned, you can actually see Carrie Kelly on the backside of that statue, because it's a statue of Batman and Superman from the Dark Knight Returns, and they're standing on like the remains of that giant Batmobile. But if you rotate the statue, you can see Carrie Kelly peeking her head out of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
If I had that rotate, because I was looking around for any kind of hints or clues.
Yeah. I saw you start looking over here at the comics. That's what I always do when I'm like lost, is I start looking at the shelf just for anything that might like stir my brain or whatever. And I was like, when this motherfucker starts looking at like Dark Knight Returns and shit, I was like, yeah, it's gonna come to him then. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I feel like I burned through like most of them, and I was like, it's got to be a handful of people here.
When you start asking me about like, do they have like any romantic interest in this shit? I was like, well, I haven't read the third one. I was like, maybe I don't. I was like, I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, but yeah, you're correct on that. Yeah. That was a good one, man. Carrie Kelly was one that I did not think about.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite characters. Like, I'm very fond of the concept for that character.
Yeah, same.
I really like her.
Same. I always thought that like I don't know this actress' name, but she was in It, and she was just in the D&D movie. I thought that she would have been a good Carrie Kelly.
The one that plays the druid in the D&D movie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Man, you're the second person now to try the homie supreme himself. Let it be known, I still remain undefeated. As I should.
I'm the only one with a loss, but I mean that's because you be throwing Oz and Brennan these little softies, so you know.
So you consider the Crash Bandicoot one a softie?
Yeah. Yeah, so, he was the fucking PlayStation mascot for 2 generations.
I have you know, sir. Okay. Also, I don't know to hear this. Brendan probably will.
If you had been like Cortex or something like that.
Well, yeah, because like originally I was thinking about like Dr. Nitro himself, like Cortex himself, but then I was like, let me dial it back. You have to play to the audience sometimes,
Yeah,
and what they're capable of, and Brendan and Oz together, they equal like a full person.
Oh, apparently you almost got Oz with that one though. He told me he mind wiped a little bit.
He did. Like, yeah, Oz, he was struggling there. Like, and I could see the smoke coming from his head. And surprisingly, Brendan came through.
Yeah. Well, neither of them would have got Solomon Grundy, but
that's true.
You had a valiant effort today, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Fun fact, though, this was, I guess, 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. I used to do like a homie trivia question at the beginning of every episode, where I would torment Kevin with a series of questions, like one every episode at the beginning, and they would just be random questions, ones that like there would be like slim chance for him to get. Some would be very easy for him to get. Some would be multiple choice, and they were just like little fun questions I would ask him. And one of them was actually about Solomon Grundy, and he did not get it.
The poem, right? The one on a Monday. I remember you asking me that, actually.
Yeah. So Solomon Grundy's been done dirty twice now.
Bunch of fucking amateurs.
Well, with that being said, homies, one and all, welcome back to the end of an era and a very special episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and tonight, whenever you're listening, I am here joined by my good friend, the homie, Caleb.
I have returned.
You've returned, and so has the Dark Knight.
That's right.
And he has risen.
He has. Yes. He has risen indeed.
I'm sure someone out there thinks that's probably pseudo-blasphemous.
Yeah, well, you can't blaspheme Batman because he's the fucking Batman.
He's the fucking Batman, yeah. And apparently you can't blast him at all, according to this movie, because he is the Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, The Dark Knight Rises, and this is gonna focus as obviously our thoughts, and review and feelings about The Dark Knight Rises, but also this is the culmination of an entire trilogy. And admittedly, it has been a while since I've watched all three in such a short time frame. And so I feel like now is also a good opportunity for us to discuss our thoughts on like this trilogy as a whole and how we think it did. In like terms of like the major Hollywood trilogies, how do you think The Dark Knight fares in comparison?
Well, I think when you look at it from the way that Hollywood looks at it from a box office perspective,
it's
I
phenomenal.
mean, it's a fucking banger. I mean, it made more money than Lord of the Rings, the severely fucking lackluster Hobbit trilogy that followed that. I mean, Jurassic Park, Terminator. I mean, you look at these major trilogies. I mean, the only trilogies that it didn't make more money than will be like Avatar, when unfortunately a third one fucking comes out. Oh my fucking god. I guess if you want to count the first 3 Avengers movies as a trilogy, it didn't make more than those. It didn't make more than the 3 Guardians movies.
Right.
The third one is still on a tear.
Yeah.
Shit, it almost beat Fast 10 when it came out this week.
I didn't see the numbers for Fast 10.
Yeah, it made like a fucking meager fucking 60 mil.
Really?
Yeah, and Guardians made like 39. So, and it's third week,
Well, the problem with that is, movie viewers, they can only watch so many movies about family, so they have to pick one. And Guardians came out first,
Such a better film.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Fast 10, but oh my God, it's getting horribly panned. Not that there's really a good movie. We don't have to talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
I'm trying to think of like movie franchises that really could equal up to this one, and there's really not a lot of them that really stuck a trilogy all the way through like that.
So I'll say this: the Dark Knight trilogy, it is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. And like, if I'm trying my best to be objective and unbiased, because I'm a big Batman fan, but like in terms of like sheer quality and what I consider to be like a true trilogy, Lord of the Rings I place above it. And
yeah, I mean, in my specific like me personally, like what I would put Lord of the Rings above it. The extended cuts, not the theatricals.
Gotcha. Now, I love the Avengers films. However, I don't really consider them like a trilogy in the sense of you can watch Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Rises, and you have one complete cohesive story.
Right.
And same thing with Lord of the Rings. You can't really do that with just the Avengers films. You need the films in between to really fill in the blanks of how we got from A to B to C.
And even with just the Avengers films, you still can't do it because, like, you need Endgame.
You need Endgame, yeah.
So,
or otherwise, it's very sad.
I mean, you can count the individual trilogies. Like, I mean, to me, I wouldn't put the Captain America trilogy above it.
Yeah.
I definitely, like, the weakest entry in that is definitely Captain America 1.
The first one.
And the weakest entry in this one is Rises, and I would put Rises over Captain America 1 every day. Twice on Sunday.
Same, yeah.
Fucking A. We don't have to talk about Iron Man. Like, one is a fucking amazing movie.
Right.
2, I like it despite the fact that most people really don't.
Yeah.
And then 3 is just fucking flat out garbage. What a terrible atrocity.
Yeah. And I hate the fact that Iron Man 3 is considered divisive. I think that Rises is divisive. I think Iron Man 3 is just objectively bad.
Yeah. It's just fucking terrible.
Right.
The Thor, I feel very similarly about that trilogy. It's like
same.
The first one, banger. The second one, I like it. Mm-hmm. Most people seem to think it's the hate that movie receives is unwarranted. Like, to me, like, okay, let's just imaginarily say that movie's like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, right? You talk to, like, the normies, and they're like, oh my God, it's the worst fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 0 or something. And I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like,
yeah, and that's the weird thing to me about, like, The Dark World. Just because if you ask most casual people, or hell, most fans, okay, when's the last time you've seen Thor: The Dark World? And most of them would say, I guess, back in 2015 or whatever.
They watched it in the theater one time, and that's I mean, I think I enjoyed it. I wanted more Malekith, but I never really understood why there was all this hatred for that movie.
Yeah, I don't really get it either, and man, I wish it had done better because if you think about it, if Thor 2 had done better, we would have, I think, been able to avoid this whole era of goofy banana peel slipping Thor. And, and we would have fared so much better for it. But yeah, man, so like in terms of like shared trilogies, I think that the Dark Knight trilogy is really just, I mean, it's one of the best. And the cultural zeitgeist has they play a huge part in how people feel about movies in general, right? So like if somebody gets on the internet, if somebody could watch a movie, right, and subconsciously won't make up their minds on how they feel about it until they get online and see what other people are saying.
Right.
And if other people are pointing out things, whether they be good things or bad things, they let those comments influence them, and then they jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of one reason why every now and then I'll look at review scores for a film before I go see it. You know, like I'll look at the actual raw numbers, but I never read a review before I go see a movie because they'll point out things, and then I'm sitting there looking for them.
Yeah.
And I want to form my own opinion always. I will say that with this particular movie with Rises, it's divisive, and over time, you know, I definitely understand why there are criticisms of it. I mean, I was sitting here shitting on it for a good portion of watching it tonight, but like at the same time though, when this came out. And even watching it now, the parts of this movie that really move me emotionally still do. And they really allow me to overlook a lot of the flaws of it.
Yeah.
Because of the emotional weight and the way that some of these things are tied up. And I say this a lot about this movie. I look at it and if you look at this movie as just a film on its own, I think it is objectively not a great movie. But as an ending to this trilogy and to as a way to wrap up this version of Bruce Wayne's story, I think it's tremendous.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point there and about like when you mention how there's things about this movie that you feel aren't great, but you're able to overlook those because of the emotional highs that this movie provides.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really poignant to point out, you know, just because a lot of times with movies in general and even Rises, and it lives and dies on expectations so much of the time, you know. So like I always use this example because I think it's such a great example, but you go back to 2014, I'll say that's a great year for superhero movies. We only got like 2 main entries that year. Winter Soldier and Guardians 1. Those were 2 very great movies, and they couldn't be any more different.
Right.
If you put the same expectations on both of those movies, you're going to love one and hate the other.
Yeah.
Because you can't treat them the same, and you can't really hold them by the exact same specific criteria because they're just 2 completely different films.
And this movie came out the same year as Avengers.
That's Avengers, yeah.
And I remember really loving both of them.
Right.
For very different reasons.
Yeah. But the issue is that a lot of people love to group superhero movies under the same umbrella, even though, as I've said time and time again, the term superhero genre is a blanket statement, a blanket term that doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
And so, you know, you take a movie like Avengers, you know, which is a team-up action romp, just such a great kind of fanfare of a movie. And then you put that next to Dark Knight Rises, you know, which is kind of the end of something, whereas Avengers is the end of one chapter and the beginning of another.
Right.
And they're just not the same type of movie. And so I think that, you know, a lot of that has to do with just the fact that you're going to get different things. So it's not really fair to be like, well, Avengers did this, that, and the third, whereas Dark Knight didn't. And I'm like, Rises was never going to do that. You know, it wouldn't make any sense if it did. And so, yeah, for me, expectations and, you know, perception just plays such a huge part in how well a movie is received.
Well, you know, in this movie, too, a lot of people, so, you know, the DCEU was already, like, there was already rumblings about it, right? Like, we already had Man of Steel, like, I think announced at this point.
Right.
They were going to try to get on the Marvel bandwagon and that they were going to have their own interconnected universe. And they started leaking out, oh, Christopher Nolan's going to be involved.
Yeah.
And we were like, Christopher Nolan going to do a Superman movie?
Right.
It was like, fuck yeah. And so I think a lot of people, like with Avengers coming out, and there's this big, like, at the end of Iron Man 1, we kind of got like, we opened a small door, and then at the end of Avengers, they opened this giant one, right, with Thanos, and letting us know that, like, this universe is, we not only is it going to expand across the franchises we already been introduced to, but it's going to open the door to this whole universe, right, on a cosmic scale. And we're going to get introduced to all these different characters. And so I think coming into this movie, people thought that DC was going to do something similar. Christopher Nolan's like, I want to tell the end of my fucking story, and I'm out. But we didn't really know that. So I think a lot of people may have gone into this movie thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to get all these really cool, like, teases for things that are going to come in the DCEU. And they just didn't, I mean, even if Nolan had been open to it, they just didn't have their shit together to that point, And it would have totally ruined this movie for them to start kind of putting the seeds in for that sort of thing. Now, if they wanted to do like a post-credit scene where somebody's like, a fucking meteor storm, lands in, like a couple meteors landed in a field outside of fucking Smallville, Kansas, or whatever, okay, fine.
Right.
I could have dealt with that. But, that was not what Nolan was out to do.
Yeah. And, I agree with that. But, I say all that not in defense of any flaws this movie has, because as we get into this podcast here, we're going to go through, all the flaws. But before we talk about the flaws of this movie, I want to talk about the things that are actually really good that this movie does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So right off the bat, like, you already mentioned this, but the emotional highs of this movie are really high. Like, this movie does a great job of really driving home certain points and bringing things back full circle. And this movie has not just callbacks, but full connections for both Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I mean, so many of the heavy themes from those two movies are brought into light in this movie. Obviously, for example, the League of Shadows and the footprint that they left behind, and the things that Bruce Wayne did and how those things are coming back to haunt him. And also the Harvey Dent Act, or I should say what Harvey Dent did at the end of Dark Knight, and how those things play like a huge impact in this movie as well.
Yeah. This movie is much more of a sequel to Begins than The Dark Knight was.
I think it's both, because if I feel like and it is to a lesser degree, but like what Harvey Dent did, him becoming Two-Face and that White Knight being torn down, and then the things that Gordon and Batman have to do to cover that up, plays a huge part in not just where the movie starts, but how the people of Gotham react.
Well, no, I meant that this movie has more connective tissue back to Begins than The Dark Knight has tissue back to Begins.
Oh yeah, agree.
Yeah, it definitely acts as a sequel to both movies.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we got two Batman stories, and then this is a sequel to both of them.
Yeah.
Because like there's not a lot in Dark Knight really that calls back to Begins.
Right.
Because it's so busy, like it's so focused on that Batman Joker, as it should be.
Yeah. And also like it with the first entry of a trilogy like that, you kind of want to move forward anyway instead of looking backwards. Whereas with the end of a trilogy, that is your time to kind of look back and wrap things up.
Right.
Rather than introducing a whole bunch of new elements.
Yeah. And I thought honestly, like, them introducing Bane in this movie was a bold choice.
Yeah.
And showing the intelligence of that character, because
right.
in the cultural zeitgeist, as we have outlined, the only Bane we ever got was the Batman and Robin Bane, where he was just this hulking, fucking stupid character.
Yeah. Who only spoke in grunts,
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. That's most people's experience with Bane.
Whereas here we got to see really the terrifying thing about him is that not only is he brutal, but he's also brilliant. And Tom Hardy, I mean, not only did he get shredded, because Tom Hardy's not a big guy.
He's really not. In most of his roles, you see him in, I mean, like, he can get there, but this was the biggest he got.
Yeah, he got absolutely shredded for this. And, I mean, he killed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think so, too. Okay, so I think a lot of people blow things out of proportion when it comes to, like, the voice work in this movie and in the Batman trilogy as a whole. You know, people always talk about the voices. Oh, man, the Batman growl, or, like, the Bane voice, the muffled voice. So let me go ahead and ask you this. What do you think about not just Bane's voice here in this movie, but also Christian Bale's Batman voice? Because we actually haven't really talked about that in these reviews.
I love the Batman voice.
Yeah.
We actually have not addressed that, and that is a common criticism of these movies. And I'm just like, okay, so if you do like he did in the Keaton / Shoemaker era, then everyone just immediately knows it's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Right? Especially like his childhood friend.
Right.
So I've always enjoyed the voice. I don't mind the Batfleck modulated voice. Mm-hmm. I think the modulated voice in the Batman was way better than what they did with his, because in the DCEU in the Batfleck one, it's like they were trying to do the Christian Bale voice with a computer. You know, and it didn't bother me, but I never particularly cared for it either. But I like the Batman, the raspy growl that Bale did. And don't get me wrong, every single voice line of it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, and, you know, like, I understand when people, you know, make fun of it or whatever, but I do think that some of it is unwarranted, like, a lot of, like, the backlash that it got. And, you know, not to dismiss any problems that it may have, but I'm like, you have Christian Bale, who is not American, you know, doing an American accent while doing a Batman type growl. You know? Like, so it's not going to sound perfect all the time. What is interesting to me is that in watching these three movies in such quick succession, you do hear that there is a difference in every movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if that has to do with Bale wanting to put more emphasis on it, or if maybe his voice getting tired of it. But I do notice a slight difference in every movie with it.
I think in this last movie, I think it's a little raspier because the man himself is 7 years older than in the first movie. And the character of Batman is supposed to be older than that.
Was it like 12 years or something?
Yeah, I think it's 12. Yeah. Well, it's 8 between Dark Knight and this, at least.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's some time has passed, and he's beat up and worn down, and, you know, so I think it makes sense for it to be a little more grovelly in the first one and a little more raspy in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fair. What do you think about Bane's voice?
So when I initially heard Bane's voice, I think it was in the trailer, and I want to say maybe even in. So you got to think 2012 when I saw this in theaters, they had IMAX, but the sound in theaters had not caught up to the video yet.
Yeah.
So even in IMAX, you were not getting like Dolby audio or anything like that, or, you know, Atmos. Back then, it very much was like, we're just going to add more speakers.
Right.
And so it's just louder, right? And so honestly, it was kind of hard. I remember the first time I saw this movie, especially at the very beginning on the plane, it was pretty hard to understand what the fuck Bane was saying.
Yeah.
But when we watched it tonight, I didn't think it was that bad, but that's because, you know,
they've cleaned it up a lot.
They cleaned it up a ton.
Yeah.
You know, the mix by the time you get to the 4K is damn near perfect.
And they've done a great job of like isolating his voice and also correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they actually had Tom Hardy do a lot of ADR for it. So it's not so like what you hear in the movie is not. He's saying the lines there on the set, sure, but he's also had to go back in a booth and say them again.
Yeah, which is very easy for this character. You can't see his mouth.
Yeah.
You know, they were very thankful for that shit.
Right.
But there was one time, I think it was when they're in the stadium, that I really noticed it tonight watching it, where you kind of hear his voice pop in over everything else.
Yeah.
You know, I noticed it a few times on the 4K. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of want to go home and watch it on my soundbar now.
You are just to see
see how it sounds on that.
Yeah.
How isolated it is.
So speaking of Bane, we can go ahead and start here in terms of like the positives. Like you already said, I think that Bane was tremendous in this movie.
Yeah, I mean the way he's used in this was really good. I mean, I have a hard time really finding a flaw with the way that they use Bane. He was brutal. He was kind of complex, you know.
Yeah.
He was very to the point on everything. Like he had some great lines of dialogue, but he's never really out there just monologuing to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You don't ever have a point where he's just sitting there explaining their intricate fucking master plan. You know?
Yeah. One thing I like about Bane, and this is also credit to Nolan and Goyer, but in most movies, like for example, we have the scene when the goons bring Commissioner Gordon to Bane, and in most movies, if you bring one of the lead protagonists to like the bad guy, then the bad guy starts mustache twirling in those type movies, and it's like yes, and you know whatever. But in this movie, Bane was like, "Why'd you bring him here? Like why?
Why'd you bring the fucking police commissioner to our lair?"
Yeah, you don't think people are gonna come looking for this motherfucker? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so like it was one of those things that like it bugged him, but it didn't unnerve him. You know? And so like the way that it was written and portrayed was perfect.
I mean, he's never unnerved in this movie.
Yeah.
Until Batman fucking breaks his mask.
Yeah.
And even then, it's only kinda.
Right. And I will also say this, like he gets a little unnerved, but when it's necessary. So like when he finds out that Bruce got out of the pit.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. But he never like really loses his composure.
No.
I mean, even up to the very end, you know, like when they kill him, he's still just like, you know, I'm about to kill you, right? And then, you know, he's done.
Right. So I really enjoyed Bane's performance here, and again, this is something that I wish more like superhero filmmakers would take note from. Like, there's a lot of things you can take from Christopher Nolan, but how he treats his villains in all three movies is just a masterclass on how villains should be treated.
Right.
You know, but so often people don't view the villains as being as important as the heroes.
Right.
And I'm like, if you treated them that way, you'll find that you have a much better product at the end, you know?
Well, I think a lot of times, you know, and this is kind of something we talked about in our protagonist and antagonist episodes that we did over on Entertainment Evolved, where you can hear those.
Great episode.
Both of them.
Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, especially with like these Hollywood writers, is they sit down, and by the way, I fully support these writers being paid adequately.
Samesies.
So, you know, I'm 100% behind the Writers Guild on their strike.
Yep.
You know, some of them maybe just pay them a little less than the good ones. But way more than they're making now.
Right.
So, and you know, like Greg Berlanti, like we can replace him with an AI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With a dumber AI.
Yeah.
We can replace him with Axe Jeeves.
Yeah. Clippy.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, no, I think a lot of these, like, you know, a lot of times the Hollywood writers would be like, well, okay, well, here's our hero. And then the villain is just a plot device for the hero's story. And that can work. But most of the time, you know, that's not going to give you a fulfilling villain unless you have a villain. Like, ideally, you want a villain who has their own goals and their own objectives, and it just so happens that crosses paths with your hero.
Yeah,
you know, and that works in this case. I mean, there's very few instances where you just have this purely fucking evil guy.
Yep.
And that just works. You know what I mean? Like Lord of the Rings is a good example of that.
Yeah.
And that's just because, like, one of the reasons that shit works is because all the symbolism that Sauron represents.
Yeah.
Because he's literally just a fucking eye on a tower for most of the time.
Right.
You know, but it's all the things that they correlate with him that he represents, that he symbolizes, that makes him a good villain and makes it relevant.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, like people talk about like the Emperor. You know, Palpatine was a fucking evil dude, right? But like, you could see why he got to where he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could see how he got there. He's a fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, but that's like two of the best examples. You look at how many times there's just this shitty mustache twirling villain, and they're just there, you know, as a stepping stone for the hero to get to the third act or the end or whatever.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and everybody wants a Joker, but nobody wants to write a Joker-like character, you know.
Right. Well, and because a lot of times, if you're going to establish a villain that can stand on their own merits,
mm-hmm.
something that they are going to have to do, or that the writing is going to do naturally, is you're going to expose flaws in your hero.
Right.
And that's one of the things that the Joker that made him such a compelling character is he took Harvey Dent, who's the White Knight,
right,
and completely ruined, like flipped him.
Yeah.
And the effects of that are felt even to this movie. And you look at Bane in this movie, and he exposes Bruce, like, and Gordon for really building all of this peacetime on top of a bed of lies.
Right.
And, you know, and then we see Batman laid low. Yeah. You know, it's like, he's like, victory has defeated you. I love that line that he says, you know, because he is stronger and faster and more resilient than Batman.
Bane has so much good dialogue here.
He really does.
And if the dialogue was weaker and if it was delivered with less conviction, I would have found it annoying as shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And if you look at, like, the things that they actually do here, it's almost like, you know, with Killmonger, where it's like, you agree with everything he says, and then he, like, shoots his girlfriend in the face, and you're like, oh, man, what a dick. It's kind of that same thing where Bane's just like, look at these fucking rich people living in luxury and shit, while these, like, orphans and stuff are having to come down here, like, you know, he's giving them a purpose.
Right.
Because the city has thrown them away. Bruce Wayne has thrown them away, essentially. Yeah. You know? And you're like, yeah, man, fuck those rich people.
Right.
You know? And then he's like, and these guys have been lying to you this whole time about all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, they actually, they have been lying. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to blow up a nuclear weapon and kill everyone. Wait a minute.
Whoa. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right. So, yeah, Bane overall, I think he's excellent in this movie. And it... Okay, so this is just more of an observation, not so much a critique, but we know that, like, Nolan, his version of these characters are all more grounded, right? They're all more, you know, centered in reality and in more plausible scenarios.
Right.
And I say all that just to say that Bane doesn't have the venom serum that he uses to enhance his size and strength and mass. And the only reason why that serves as like a potential, you know, want to the movie is because even though Bruce is older and he's worn down, which is why I give it a pass, actually, Bruce is actually supposed to represent like peak, physical conditioning. Right. And so to see Bane, you know, in this, I'm like, his advantage in this movie, it just appears to only be the fact that Bruce is out of practice and older and beat the fuck up. And you have to wonder if he caught Bruce in his prime, like if he caught Bruce, you know, Dark Knight era.
Oh, he would have fucked him up.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Who would have fucked who up?
No, I mean, I think Bruce would have fucked him up.
Yeah.
He runs into him like at the beginning of The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I think Bruce, I think Bane would have been a challenge, but I think Bruce would have fucked him up for sure. Because you gotta think also, Bruce doesn't have as many gadgets and shit in this movie as he had then.
Yeah, he really doesn't, huh?
Because in Dark Knight, you know, he's got Lucius like around the clock making different shit for him. The little fucking concussion bombs things he uses. Yeah. The fucking sticky things that he blows up the Lau's building with, and later uses at the end of the movie. Yeah. The little fucking fins that he
shoot from the gauntlets.
Joker that shoots with the gauntlets. Yeah. He didn't have any of that shit in this movie, you know? Right. Because it's like his whole squad is out of practice.
Yeah, everyone is.
Yeah, so
and it also goes to show, and this is like another positive I like about the movie, is that they really do such a great job of playing up how Bruce is out of practice and all those things that have happened and compounded. And Bane even says, or at least Bane implies that, and Alfred also implies you have nothing to fight for now. Like your reason, you were looking for a reason to come back as Batman.
Yeah.
And with that reasoning being gone, you just kind of a shell of who you were.
Yeah, and it's like he's literally trying to just, he's been chilling in his house for 8 years.
Yeah.
He's clearly not been in there working out for 8 years.
Right.
He's not prepared, and he's just like, I am the Batman. I can do it. And then he gets absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
And it's like he just believes that he's still that character from The Dark Knight, and mentally, physically, spiritually, he's not.
Yeah, he's different, and he's not the same. It's the Rocky syndrome, or you can even call it like the Creed syndrome, where the character they're out of practice. They haven't done it in a while, and they think they can still do it, and they have to humble themselves and realize that they're not the same person, and they have to build themselves back up. Find that reasoning again. For Rocky, it was called the eye of the tiger. He had lost it. You know, he had to get that back. And, for Batman, it's kind of a similar thing.
And I think with this movie, we talked a lot about themes and stuff of the previous films. I really do think that with this film, hope and despair and the contrast between them are the central theme of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because he tries to take the audience on a ride, of really how low can we lay the audience?
Yeah.
In this? How much despair can we put out into the people watching this? Until we get that kind of resurgence of the hero. Right. Because at this point, man, there's very few protagonists that get brought down to the level that Bruce gets brought down to in this movie.
Yeah, he gets brought down. And that's the thing, right? That in and of itself is kind of a great feat, because he starts off at a low point.
Yeah.
And then he gets brought lower.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh, man, all right, yeah, cool, we're getting into it. He's coming back as Batman, and then
right.
He gets a couple little W's in, and then a few scenes later, we get the Nightfall, we get the Bane fight.
Right, yeah, we get Nightfall, yeah. So I don't want to jump too far ahead of this, because this could be maybe considered a negative of sorts. But how do you feel about the conclusion between Bruce and Alfred in terms of their relationship? Because Michael Caine did a tremendous job, right? But then he almost just disappears around the halfway point of the movie, and then we see him again at the end of the third act.
Yeah, I loved everything Michael Caine did in this movie. He's not in it a ton. And I think that works, because there really would have been not a lot for him to do during that time that he was off screen. So I think having him leave is the right way to do this. But every time he's on screen, man, it just gets at me every single time, man. He can just cut you to the core, and he's the logic here. He's trying to tell him, he's like, you're not a young man anymore. Right. Look at the condition you're in. And he's like, I feel like there's nothing he's telling Bruce, I feel like you think that there's nothing for you out there other than to die in the suit, And I think he's right at the moment that he says that to him.
He is. I mean, think about it. Bruce is way too excited.
Yeah.
When, first of all, when Selena breaks in and steals the purse, that, in more ways than one, I'm sure that excited him.
Right.
But immediately he's gone into forensics mode,
Yeah.
And, all he really had to do was just pinpoint where she was, get the pearls back, and then let that be that. But he wanted to go deeper. She wanted his fingerprints. Okay, well, why did she want my fingerprints? Okay, because of this dude named John Daggett. Okay, what's this thing with John Daggett? Or who is this Bane guy? And the thrill kind of came back.
The giant chase he leads Gotham PD on,
right,
for no fucking reason. I mean, it was great. It's a great scene. I love it, but it's literally just him showing off, I'm the goddamn Batman.
I'm Batman, yeah, and I'm back, yeah. But do you feel that Alfred and Bruce had? Do you like the way they left things with those two characters?
The only thing I don't like is the very end where he, like, this whole concept that he would have just walked off. That definitely wouldn't have happened. They would have embraced, you know, it would have been this emotional moment between them.
I understand, you know, Alfred, his kind of the dream that he would love to have, you know, like what he explained to Bruce earlier in the movie, where he goes, you know, I wish you had never come. I wish you'd never come back from, you know, wherever Master Wayne, and I imagine that I'd see you at such and such cafe, and you know, we wouldn't speak to each other, but you know, there'd be a knowing glance, and I know that you'd be okay. But I'm like, I get that, but I agree with you. Like, there would have been some kind of
interaction,
right? And or at the very least, Alfred, I think would have absolutely, you know, shed at least one or two tears.
Yeah,
you know. And so yeah, I agree with that there, and because like Alfred and Bruce, they mean so much to each other. It is a father and a son relationship, and there's so much going on in this movie. But at the same time, I do wish there would have been some chance for like true reconciliation there, because the way they leave things is, you know, kind of a heartbreak, and it leads you to wonder, what did Bruce? Did he really learn anything from this whole thing about Rachel and losing her versus putting down the cowl and understanding what that meant? Was able to kind of tie all that together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's like, and we get this kind of idea from him the whole way across, like, he loves being Batman.
Yeah.
It's who he really is. Bruce Wayne is a mask. And he only wanted to give it up for Rachel. Mm-hmm. And so when Rachel died, and then he can't be Batman anymore, then what's
left?
Yeah. You know, there's nothing left of him. There's a corpse walking around Wayne Manor. Right. You know? What we see at the beginning of this movie. And so, yeah, I mean, he really doesn't think that there's anything out there for him other than that.
Yeah.
And I think he does come to that conclusion by the end of the movie. So,
right.
That there is something else out there for him, that he can have a life.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk a little bit here about some of the comic book influences here, because just like the rest of the movies in this trilogy, there are several comic book influences here, and there's probably three primaries. I mean, I think the most obvious one is Nightfall, the introduction of Bane and the breaking of Batman's back. Another one, written by the same guy who did Nightfall in the comic books, is No Man's Land. There's a trilogy of fat-ass omnis dedicated to No Man's Land. And that is when Gotham is ravaged by a cataclysm. It's actually an earthquake, but it cuts off Gotham from the rest of the United States, and it's martial law, and there is no real governing force, and like the cops are a gang, and there's different factions, and there's just all out kind of war and mayhem. And then what does that kind of Gotham look like, and what does justice look like in that? So there's a lot of influences from there too in this movie. And then of course we have The Dark Knight Returns, the idea of an aging, weary Batman coming back from one last hurrah. You know? Right. And so I think that those are probably the three main influences that this movie takes. And those are three big chunky stories, you know. But I think that this movie does a pretty good job of adapting what they need to make this movie kind of work without being a jumbled mess.
Yeah, I would have to really agree with that.
Yeah.
It took a good bit of influences. And this is the most comic booky out of all three of them, I think. You know, this feels much more like a comic book type movie than the first two do to me.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like the fight scenes in this movie, I think they are solid for the most part. You know, I always make fun of the fact that in Nolan, he does try definitely harder to make his fight scenes more impactful here. I always talk about how much I enjoy the first Batman and Bane fight. I love that fight scene. and it's not that it's the flashiest or that it has like the best choreography, but it's kind of like the meaning behind it and the fact that there is no music playing,
Yeah.
and the fight scene tells a story, and I really dig that about it, and also it is a fun fight scene to watch. With that being said, I always laugh when I see the fight scene on the roof with Batman and Catwoman, and the goon just stumbles back and takes a bump for no reason.
I'm telling you, man, that is a shockwave from Batman's cape. See, when he jumps off the roof and he like lands and the cape billows behind him, it's a shockwave, man.
So he got that upgrade from the Arkham games and just okay.
Yeah, gotcha. He can't withstand like wind damage of that magnitude.
Right.
Or, there is the option of where, like, he was just like, oh, man, this motherfucking Batman, I ain't get paid enough for this. And then he just falls over.
Right. Just falls over. Yeah, that's fucking great. What you think about Anne Hathaway as Selena Kyle?
Obviously, there's some issues with the way that Catwoman is played here, like the way that she's written. But I thought Anne Hathaway did a great job here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's easily my favorite Catwoman. Live action.
I think I like Zoe a bit more, but I do like what Anne does here.
In a weird turn, like Zoe is somehow more grounded than this one.
Yeah, that's I didn't think about it that way, but yeah,
yeah, because like Zoe, I mean, is really, she's like on a fucking revenge kick,
right.
in the Batman, and it's about Bruce trying to show her that there's another way.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, they really play more into the whole like kind of jewel thief that just got caught up in the wrong crowd type situation. I love both interpretations, and
same.
I absolutely adore Zoe Kravitz. I'll watch her in just about anything.
I'll watch her do anything.
Yeah, I thought that they're both great, but if I got to pick one, it's probably this one.
Okay. Yeah, I dig what they did in this. I was just thinking really quick. I feel like there's a scene I remember, but I wanted to make note of this while we were watching the movie, but I feel like maybe the cut we watched didn't have it in there, and it was when she's being escorted into Blackgate. Like, I remember this scene in particular because there's a part in that movie where she's in the jumpsuit and she's walking, an inmate hits on her from behind the cell, and she grabs his hands, like does a flip and breaks his wrist.
Yeah.
I am so certain that in the cut we watched, it wasn't in that.
It was.
I don't remember that. Are you okay? Okay, yeah. I fucking missed it. Yeah, because it had to have been because we see the part where she gets approached by Blake in the airport, and she gets arrested, and he interrogates her for a little bit, and then, like, I could have sworn that scene was somewhere after that, but I just don't remember seeing it tonight.
Weird.
Yeah.
The scene's definitely there.
Okay.
It's a quick scene, though. Maybe,
Yeah. Okay. Because it had me question, like, man, was that a deleted scene? But
no, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that shit was even in the trailers.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Like just the flip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I always remember that scene is because it just seems so unnecessary.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the way she's played, especially early in the movie. Mm-hmm. Her doing the whole like where she's in there like shooting the guys and fighting them and stuff, and then like as soon as the cops break in, she's playing the damsel in distress,
right.
And like her playing on the congressman, which I want to say that like as far as like some of the side characters in this movie, I don't necessarily want to get off of Catwoman, but like this movie has like two sets of characters that are so identical, like both in the way that they look and the way that they act. So you have Foley, who's like the assistant commissioner or whatever, deputy commissioner, and the congressman.
Yeah,
they got two guys to play them that look super similar.
They do.
And they really could have probably been one character.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with John Daggett and this guy's name, Striver, like the guy, shady guy with him. I feel like that could have been one character.
Well,
and those guys,
Striver, that was Daggett's underling, right? Like his second in command or whatever. Yeah,
but they look and talk the same.
They do,
and I feel like they could have just combined both sets of these characters. You know,
they could have. They really could have.
But like with Striver, the internet was going crazy that like he was supposed to be like Clayface or something at the time.
I hadn't heard that theory.
Yeah, there's this whole thing about how he's supposed to be Clayface or something, and I'm just like,
I think people were just looking for Clayface because John Daggett was in the movie,
right? Yeah.
That's got to be it. Because I was also looking for Clayface clues when I was watching this in the theater the first time. Like, okay, but I gotta say, no, dog. Clayface is the same place where Killer Croc is. You know, he's he's in Easter egg land. No men of clay and no alligator men. All right. So I liked also kind of the duality of Bruce and Gordon in this movie, because they both have to tell a lie, and it affects them differently, but they both lose so much. Like, obviously, Batman, at the end of Dark Knight, he's broken, and he's, like you said earlier, he doesn't even know what his identity is anymore. He was going to possibly found a new identity with Rachel, as far as he knows, that's what he was going to do.
Right.
And make a future with her. He can't do that because she's gone, and now because of his sacrifice, there is no more Batman, and so both parts of him are gone. And like you said, he's just a shell of the man who he was. Whereas with Gordon, he's lost his family.
Right.
Barbara has taken the children and gone elsewhere, and so he's been living with just this guilt that you can tell has been eating him up for the past 8 years. And he's even written this letter that he plans on reading, but he can't do it quite yet.
Right.
And man, like, you do have to wonder, like, how long can someone sit on a secret like that? It, on a lesser scale, it's kind of an Ozymandias type deal,
Yeah, almost. Yeah. I mean, it was everything that they did. They built it on top of this lie, and it doesn't invalidate the end of Dark Knight. They made the best decision that they could have made. But that's an important life lesson, right? It's like, even if you make the best choice, it can still have bad consequences.
Yeah.
And that's what plays out here. There's not always a purely good option.
Right. And that is the truth of the matter. Sometimes life is Mass Effect 3,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they had this peaceful Gotham, but it was built on top of these lies.
You're right.
And that shit is not a strong foundation, and it crumbled. You know?
Yeah, it crumbled, and we see the result. But again, like, I love how that came back into play and how that was such a big part of it. Because again, I feel like a lesser filmmaker would have been like, we need a reason for Batman to come back. And that's kind of that, But no, that lie comes back in a huge way, and the people of Gotham are they're angry. We don't get to see the full repercussions of that because, nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
But
there's a million other things going on.
Yeah. So to kind of creep into a negative here, I think that Rises, more than any of the other two Batman movies, is when we really see the Christopher Nolanisms kind of creep in, and that is like the over convolution of things that don't really need to be that convoluted.
Just don't think about it, Morty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he really starts in on the, you can see this in Tenet, and you can see it here, and a little bit in Inception, right? That third act of Inception is just like, okay, I know we took you on this fucking roller coaster ride, but now we're going to spend the next 50 minutes just convoluting the fuck out of this.
Yeah. I didn't think there was a fourth act until I started watching Christopher Nolan movies.
Right, yeah. What was the movie recently that has fucking 7 acts?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I remember Tenet being like, there's definitely 4 acts in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the damn movie was. It was No Way Home.
Oh,
No Way Home. Yeah. It has like fucking 7 acts for some reason.
Right.
But it works. But like in this movie, there you could tell that a lot of the problems in this movie come with them trying to top The Dark Knight, and they couldn't do it. Like, Bane was amazing, but like so few villains since, if anybody has.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast on, has anybody surpassed Heath Ledger's Joker from like a singular villain standpoint, from a standpoint of carrying a film. And like,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's fucking tough. And you look at it and it's just like, they couldn't do that, so it's like, okay, well, we're gonna amp up everything. There's the bad guys have tumblers. Batman's got a fucking helicopter jet thing.
Right.
Like, everything just has to be amped up, and it's like, we're gonna make the villain's plot like more convoluted than the stuff the Joker was doing. And it's just like, by the end of it, man, you're just kind of exhausted. Because it's like you just get hit with one thing after another thing after another thing. It's just like, yeah, if these people really wanted to blow up Gotham, though, they could have dropped Bruce in that pit and then blown it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that that got me about Bane's plan is, why make the whole deal about giving them hope? Like, Ra's al Ghul never gave a shit about that. He just gave a shit about, executing his plan and taking down one of the big empires of this modern, generation. That's what his concern was.
Well, I'm fine with the hope part, right? Because he does explain that, like, about the prison, about why it is the worst prison ever. And I love the symbolism with the prison and everything. I thought that was cool. I've always been a big fan of that. But I didn't really understand, like, I understood why he would want to give Bruce hope, but I didn't really understand why they needed it for the people of Gotham if they were just going to kill them all anyway.
And that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
I don't get that because, like, the people of Gotham, first of all, I don't think they're too bright. And
right.
and secondly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always been under the pretense that, like, they knew that the bomb was going to go off at some point, but the hope was that one of them has the bomb. I mean, one of them has the trigger, and at their discretion, if they so decide, they could blow up the city, and that's supposed to inspire people to take charge. And I'm like, but how? Like, I feel like that's almost a Joker-esque thing just to create chaos is what it seems like it would do.
Right.
So I feel that maybe they could have done more with that. I guess I just don't understand fully the idea of trying to instill hope among the people and pretend like you're giving them agency that they never had, and then at the end blow them up. I'm like, are you gonna tell them before you do it, like, by the way, gotcha, bitches?
Yeah. I feel like they did it, a lot of that, just to be able to do that stadium scene, which is an incredible scene.
It is
so effective. When Bane's just like, how many people could disarm this device? And he's like, just me, and then he snaps his neck.
Right.
That's a great fucking scene, but it's just like, how convoluted did you have to make this in order to get to there? And then the whole like thing where the reactor chamber can flood or whatever, and it's just like, I feel like they were just trying to give Lucius something to fucking do, and
and you know what? Like, I even try to give that a pass because it absolutely makes sense that a fucking fusion core would have a failsafe to flood it in case something went wrong. So I understand that there would be that. But we get like one line of dialogue telling us that there's a way for it to flood,
Right. So
I get it, but I'm like, man, how much of this did we really need to get to the meat of this story here? The whole idea of this fusion core, like, I like it in concept, but I think in execution, they took the long route to do something that they could have just crossed the street to do,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, because on paper, it's simple, right? You have this fusion core that can be used for unlimited energy, but if you, like, remove it, then it's going to be a ticking time bomb that's going to go off like a fucking nuke,
Right.
That's straightforward. The way that they go about explaining it in this movie, Jesus Christ, like,
it's a lot. And the whole thing with them crashing the plane at the beginning, like, yeah, it's a great intro to the movie or whatever. But I'm like, y'all couldn't have faked this dude's death in a more simple
Right.
way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just kidnap him and then blow up his house, you know?
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Well, it goes back to what you just said about like the stadium scene. It's like Christopher Nolan, he's not a rule of cool guy, but it's almost like the studio heads were like, hey, we want to make sure that there's big action set pieces here. And Nolan tried to figure out ways to make them make sense, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Because, the plane scene, like you said, it is a very cool opening, but man, you really have to kind of turn the other cheek when it comes to making that scene make sense,
Right.
A lot of it just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, unfortunately. Yeah, so there are other things with this movie that don't really gel with me, and I hate to be the one to like agree with like the internet on certain things, but there are some good points being made. One of them is the Lazarus Pit / prison. First of all, I like the idea that they combined Bane's prison with the Lazarus Pit. I think that's really cool.
Right.
I think that's a cool, way to introduce those elements. Where the fuck is it, and how long does it take to get there?
Well, I mean, if you're Bruce Wayne, it takes about 40 minutes. But anybody else, it's in like, Tanzania or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's Batman.
He's Batman, yeah. And so this is something that you just, there's no way around it. You have to overlook this, like the whole idea of Bane taking Bruce there. I understand him keeping, Bruce alive. First of all, like for the plot, he obviously can't kill Bruce Wayne, at least not right there.
Right.
And secondly, yeah, I completely believe that Bane would want to see Bruce watch Gotham's demise. Wherever they are, they have cable. So we know that.
Right. Yeah, they definitely got cable.
Yeah,
they ran closed circuit all the way to Gotham. There's just a wire across like the Atlantic Ocean.
Right. All the way. And you also have to overlook the idea that a broken back can be fixed with a kung fu punch, and then you can do push-ups and be fine. Well,
yeah.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of faith in old school Eastern medication.
I was gonna say, first you gotta have somebody like Iron Palm Tiger Strike your vertebrae back in.
Yeah. And hope the motherfucker hits the right one in the right spot.
Yeah, and then you just gotta hang by a rope for a while.
Yeah, until you can stand.
That shit had to have been awful.
Oh yeah.
Because he was like, just stay like that till you can stand up.
Right. Like, how long is that going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, like, he had to have, like, fucking all kind of, like, how he had to sleep like that.
Right. Yeah. Like, that wasn't like a thing that happened overnight,
Yeah. He had to be in fucking agonizing pain the whole time.
Right. And so, as we discussed while we were watching the movie, Bruce had to have been there for about 5 months.
Yeah.
Because he gets his back broken, and then Bane gets his hands on the nuke, and it has like a 5-month grace period before it's gonna go off.
Yeah.
And Bruce comes back like a day before the thing goes off. So yeah, we don't know where the pit prison is, and we also don't know exactly how Bruce got his back fixed. We don't know how he got back to Gotham so quickly.
He's the Batman.
He got to Gotham the same way he escaped the blast radius of that fucking nuke.
I don't know how many ways I can explain this to you. I don't know why, like, it's not coming across through your headset. But I've been explaining this to you for hours. He's Batman.
I have to grill these points on behalf of Joe Brown, who could not be here.
He's Batman. He's Batman. That's it.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, he's fucking Batman, but he's not. I mean, okay. Believe it or not, people, the words bat and man are not synonymous with plot armor. Okay. Like it doesn't give him grounds to just
Well, no, Lucius made the plot armor.
Lucius
He just wears it.
he wasn't around the plot armor did not protect him from getting his back broken.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I wonder if is it a different suit when he comes back, or is it the same suit?
It's got to be a different suit, right? Where would he get that same suit from?
Yeah, I mean they didn't take the suit off of him that he got the shit beat out of him in, and like neatly put it back in the fucking Batcave.
Right. That'd be really nice of them.
Yeah, be like, well, if he escapes, we'll leave this here for him.
Also, this isn't a complaint, just more of like a thing that I definitely think would have happened, but Bane for sure would have looked for that fucking the bat jet, and found that bitch. Like,
right, yeah.
I want that.
They know that it's Bruce. Like, you think they would have like destroyed Wayne Manor in the Batcave,
right?
Yeah. But I guess they were like, we got eyes on him 24/7. We know he can't fucking.
True.
But I mean, shit, you don't know. He could have had like a capsule corp version of the bat that he could like launch from a satellite. Some Tony Stark shit.
Yeah. And man, I've thought about this so many times over the past 11 years, right? But even if Bruce used the bat to get back to Gotham, how did he call it? Like how did he get out there to him?
Listen, I don't know how.
Okay, you're right. You told me this. I'm for some reason I'm not listening to you.
I feel like is my channel turned all the way down? Can you not hear me over there, folks? He's Batman.
I apologize, Caleb. I owe you an apology for that.
I'm over here looking at this whole shelf of Batman comics the man has, and I'm just like, surely he knows he's Batman. It's Bruce Wayne. He could have walked back there.
You know what? I'm sure that there's like a whole ocean between where he is and where Gotham is, but
Well, you know what he probably did? He probably flagged somebody down, beat the shit out of them, took their car to like the nearest like airfield, and then stole like a jet or a helicopter,
right,
and then flew the fuck home.
And that jet and or helicopter had enough fuel to make it.
Well, I mean, clearly because he's Batman.
That's right. Yeah.
You're forgetting that he's prepared.
It keeps slipping my mind. Yeah. That's my bad.
I'll keep reminding you. It's okay.
Thank you. Because I might need that reminder a few more times
tonight. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh man. Okay, so let's talk about the scene where. Okay, actually, let's back up. I was going to say let's talk about the scene where we have the cops versus the Bane gang. But first of all, let's talk about how the cops got stuck in the tunnels for 5 months. Gordon, while he's like on hospital bed rest, he gives the words to send every available cop, which we found out is about 3,000.
Right. What the fuck? Part of the Dent Act must have been like, we're going to hire 1,000 cops.
Right. It had to have been. I'm like, that's an ass of fucking cops.
Yeah. They have like an army. They have like more SWAT team members than like most cities have police.
Right. I'm like, because you have to like compare. I wonder if like they compare this to like New York. How many cops are in New York?
Probably.
That's had to have been it. And I'm like, I don't even know if that's accurate. I doubt it, because that's a lot. I understand that there's I think they said 2 million people in Gotham in this movie, and 3,000 cops. Maybe per capita that makes sense.
Oh shit, dude. Okay, so yeah, we might actually be way off with this. So apparently the NYPD has 36,000 officers. God damn. Yeah. Yeah, they have 36,000 officers and 19,000 civilian employees.
Oh, well, shit. Maybe that math adds up then.
And the New York is 8.5 million people.
Okay. See, that's what the issue is then.
Well, yeah, but if you if Gotham is 2 million,
Yeah.
so you take a fourth of this, like Gotham, by using this standard, Gotham should still have like 8,000 cops.
But you said there's 3,600 or
36,000.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so they should have
Oh,
yeah, they should have thousands of cops. they should have like 2-3 times what they have in the movie.
Oh shit! Never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but I'm like, here's the thing, man. New York City would never send them all to one fucking spot.
Right. Right. That was a very dumb thing of Gordon to do.
I love this movie, but fucking the whole plot line with the we're gonna trap all the police in the fucking tunnels
because we need to get them out of the way.
Yeah, because we need to get them out of the way. The whole thing is so dumb, and the fact that like they all spend 5 months living underground,
right,
eating fucking whatever they can scrape.
We see them being lowered food because Bane is allowing that to happen,
right,
for reasons, you know.
Yeah,
Bane, he's very gracious. You know, he lets the little boy sing the entire national anthem. That's very nice of him. Even compliments his voice.
Yeah,
you know I mean, yeah, but Bane is very kind. You know, the more you think about it, you know, like the way he kills the one captain who is introduced for like all of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very kind. You know, he acknowledges him as captain. You know.
Yeah.
You know, he asked John Daggett a very pointed and philosophical question before he murders him. You know?
Yeah.
You're paying me, yes. Does this give you power over me? You know, very, very important questions that I don't know if John got to the conclusion or not before he died.
It sounded like he got it from what we could hear.
Yeah. Also, if you notice the way they shot that scene with Bane and John Daggett, they shot it so that Bane looked like a fucking giant.
Yeah.
You know, like that was.
It was a great shot. I mean,
it was.
You can't come at this movie cinematically, right? Like from a cinematography point of view, the only bad shot in this entire fucking movie is the Talia death. And here's the thing. I can sit here, I can make excuses for this movie that make sense because that's what I do. I just fucking turn nonsense into logic. But like, if I talk long enough, you'll believe me. But that scene, I can't justify it at all. I cannot justify that shit. How was that the best take? Did they just shoot the one take and that was it? It is a middle school fucking drama play death. It is atrocious.
It's so bad. It's such a bad death.
And I want to say, just to give her a little credit here, I want to say that they went back and did reshoots for this movie, including that scene, and she was like pregnant during that. Which is why in a lot of the later scenes in the movie, she's wearing that big overcoat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But fucking Christ, man. Rihanna can still sing, and she's pregnant.
Right, yeah.
So,
and there's not a whole lot you have to do for a death scene. It just has to be a convincing-looking death.
It's one of the worst deaths in modern cinema. It's atrocious.
It is laughably bad.
Especially since they... Like, the way that she gets killed is so fucking good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that crash.
That crash is amazing. Honestly, if it were me and I'm making this movie, I would have just had that thing just nose dive.
Yeah.
And then, like, she just gets pulverized.
Right.
You know what I mean? But she had the fucking villain monologue.
Yep.
You know, she had to do the my evil plan. You did not undo it.
Yeah.
You bought Gotham 11 minutes. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. Deuces, bitches.
I'm just going to die now.
Yeah. Like, she just calls it, you know, and she just fucking dies.
She's like, oh, the script says I die now. So.
Yeah, so I'm out of here. So what must have happened, Christopher Nolan was sick that day, food poisoning. And so somebody else took in and directed. And it was actually a chimpanzee, right? It was a monkey. That's the only explanation that I can think of for that death scene.
There's no way he filmed that, right? I mean, unless they had 10 seconds.
Right.
You know, they were like, oh, we got to get out of here. Just do the death scene real quick.
Yeah. Right. Like, just close your eyes and you know, and turn your head.
Because he's known for like meticulously, going through and cutting the film and
right.
and doing these very in depth edits. And there's no fucking way that he had multiple shots and this was the best one. So that's got to be the only take there is.
I refuse to believe that was the best shot.
Right, it has to be the only shot.
Yeah. But like I said, the question then is like, why was it the only shot?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm Nolan and I couldn't film anything more, I would frantically go to like the VFX department and editing and be like, let's blow up the van that she's in.
Yeah, yeah, it explodes.
Yeah,
or like if like for whatever reason like she's just not available, I'd be like, all right, fuck this shit. When I looked at that cut, I'd be like, all right, we're gonna recast her and reshoot all of her scenes.
Right. Yes. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. The moment she reveals herself as Talia, she's gonna like take off a fake mask.
She's gonna pull it's Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Get Scarlett on the phone.
Get Scarlett on the phone. What do you mean she's doing Avengers?
Yeah. Whatever.
Oh yeah. That death is hilarious. I'm not a big fan of Bane's death either.
I don't mind Bane's death. The reason it doesn't bother me is because Batman did beat him. If it would have been this thing where Batman doesn't beat him and he just gets captured by Talia, and then they do the fucking exactly what they would do today. They just have Catwoman come in and shoot him with the thing after Batman fights him for the whole movie. Yeah. I would have hated it. But the way that it happens, like Batman beats him, and then they do some dirty shit, and like Bane's gonna kill Batman like while he's fucking tied up,
right?
And then she comes in and she's like, "Nah, motherfucker." Yeah. Like I actually really liked it.
I'm not mad at at what they wanted to do. It's just like it was shot. I don't like.
I don't share that criticism. I actually don't mind it, and I remember it getting cheers in the theater too.
I mean, I cheered at Bane getting shot, but I'm like, well, what happened? Because again, like the way that it's shot, I cannot tell. Bane just gets blown back and hits a wall. I'm like, well, it's Bane. Like, you gonna get back up, or are you dead? Are you grievously injured? I don't know. You should be in pieces, but I don't know what happened.
When he hit that wall, he should have exploded.
Yeah. And again, like I just feel like look at Ra's al Ghul's death, or look at Harvey Dent's death, right? Like look at the other major deaths in this movie. And it's like, man, that was a fucking moment. Bane doesn't get a moment when he dies. It's just it happens.
Yeah, they left no questions when fucking Ra's gets killed.
Oh yeah. and it was a fucking moment.
Yeah,
and that's why with Bane, like he gets fucking shot with the fucking cannon on the bat pod. Great scene, great action, but there's no follow up to it. And so I'm like, it just felt incomplete,
Yeah.
Whereas Talia, her scene was just bad.
Yeah. The only reason that the movie doesn't suffer hugely from that scene is because it's immediately followed up by that amazing scene between him and Gordon. And
here's the thing, right? I feel like a lot of people may overlook that scene because they're still reeling from the Talia death.
It's so bad. But that scene is so good because
it is.
Gordon never cared who he was.
Yeah.
And they have that moment, where it comes full circle, where Gordon, basically reassured him that things were going to be all right, as a child when his parents died. And that stuck with him. He knew that Gordon was a good egg.
Right.
And for that to come full circle with Gordon, where if Gordon hadn't been there for Bruce as a child, then maybe he doesn't become Batman.
Yeah.
And so in a way, Gordon has just as much to do with saving the city as Batman did.
Right.
And it was just an awesome, like, kind of full circle moment for them.
So we've gone for like an hour and 35 minutes without mentioning Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Man, that's weird. So I think this film is better if you just completely take him out.
And it's nothing against him.
Yeah, I think he's a great actor.
Yeah.
Like I don't really have an issue with him. And honestly, some of the scenes he's in are not like he's got some good scenes in the movie. But for the most part, it's like, number one, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
And he's really, like, a lot of the movie, it feels like he's only there because none of our normal point of view characters were present.
Right.
Nor should they have been.
Yeah.
And then it also, they sidelined Gordon where he got shot.
You're right.
So it's like he's kind of Gordon's agent, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would have much preferred if they'd used Barbara for this role.
Same.
I
would have. I mean, because like you joked about earlier, all of Gordon's children have advanced aging, so she would have been of age.
Yeah. Yeah. Have her show up at the beginning of the movie to reconcile with her dad. Maybe she's in school to be a detective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would have been great if they brought in Barbara and done like almost the same thing.
Yeah, she's there to visit her dad,
Yeah.
and then Bane does his bullshit, so now she's trapped in Gotham.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean her dad is shot, so she's staying for sure.
Yeah.
And
then she's doing all this to try to help him out. Way fucking better thing. Way better like idea. And I think at the end, this whole thing where like maybe Bruce like leaves her the cave and everything would have gone so much fucking better.
It really would have. It would have been worlds better.
Because this ending, like that last shot was cool, like the way they shot it, but it just never felt good.
It didn't.
And I'm like, if you were gonna shoehorn a Robin in here, just fucking put Dick Grayson in the movie.
Right. And see, then like I don't want to put this on Nolan, but I feel that somebody wanted it to be like some kind of cool reveal at the end where there's a Robin or there's this person. If you tell us right up front, then you don't get that same type of shock and awe.
Right.
I think that's stupid though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they kind of do the same thing with Talia, but that makes more sense than what they did with this Robin, quote unquote.
See, I always loved the Talia reveal. I know that like if you already know who she is, it makes a ton of sense. She has the romantic relationship with Bruce.
Right.
The whole thing's based around League of Shadows, blah, blah. Like, I thought that the original twist with her was great. I never minded it. But, like, the Robin thing always, it just didn't sit well. And it doesn't do anything good for the movie.
It doesn't. I mean, and also I'm kind of curious, like, what all did Bruce leave him? Like he left him the cave with the supercomputer, and that's great. But what else?
Well, yeah, I don't think the bat pod's in there.
No, it's the bat in there. You gonna leave the fucking?
No,
the bat.
The bat.
Well, I mean,
maybe Lucius is gonna help him.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Otherwise, he's dead within days.
Yeah.
Maybe he left him a suit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because the suit that was in the cave is the one that got broken by Bane. And I feel like he went to the warehouse cave from Dark Knight to get the second one he uses.
Right.
And so I don't know what he has to go to Lucius because he has to get a suit built for him.
Yeah. Or maybe he just Red Hoods it. He just puts on a bike helmet.
Right. yeah. Maybe that. I don't know. But yeah, the whole Robin thing, it didn't hit. And it felt half-hearted on top of that,
Yeah, I get why they decided to try to put this character in, but it just doesn't land. I mean,
it's like we've discussed, man. It just works 1,000 times better if you just put Barbara in there. You know,
he's purely used as a plot device.
Yeah, for sure. I think something that we both did like about this was the brief Liam Neeson cameo, seeing Ra's al Ghul come back for a moment, and even if it is in like a hallucinatory state, that was fun to see.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I popped so big for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. And it's unfortunate that Bruce, his hallucinations kind of lied to him. Made him think that Bane is your kid. The hallucination should have been like, what? No. Bane? No. Oh, don't be stupid.
Yeah, I don't mind the twist there, and I love seeing, we get Ra's al Ghul,
Yeah.
Even if it is just Bruce like hallucinating or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind that whole thing with Bane and the twist and all that, and like where he was actually like protecting Talia, 'cause like it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, Yeah, I think that like as far as like twist or reveals go, like it's okay. Like I don't think that like the Bane Talia thing is I don't think it's bad. But I don't think it's great either. Like I
No.
think yeah, I think it's fine. Like I was never mad at the Talia reveal, but I think when I first saw it in theater, as soon as I saw them say, as soon as I heard them say, the mercenary had a child, and you piece together the mercenary's got to be Ross. I'm like, well, Nolan, he's willing to change things, but I like it's that new chick has got to be Talia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like most, twists, when you watch it again, it's like, oh yeah, it's super obvious now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, what does this movie do? Oh yeah, so I went to talk about like the big scene that we get like the 3,000 cops or whatever versus Bane's mercenaries. Like you said, this scene is well shot. It is just so ridiculous to me though.
This was literally just, I mean, this was Nolan putting his dick on the table, right? Like, this shot was marketed. I think it is I want to say it was the longest IMAX shot ever done in a like major production at this point. There's a lot of IMAX shots in this movie, and it was the most that had been done, I think, other than like Avatar.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, this was a whole thing, and like, there's a lot of IMAX shots in this, and this one, I think that scene, I think it's like 17 or 22 minutes or something, where it's all IMAX shots, and like, man, don't get me wrong, I love the Bruce and Bane fight going on in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, like when all the cops are running up and all of Bane's guys have like machine guns.
Right.
And only like 3 of them fall or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the cops have been underground for 5 months in the same clothes, no medical care, and none of them even really look dirty.
Right.
Well,
they all went home first,
Oh, and Change got a fresh. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing was just like, and like, where was the SWAT team that all the SWAT team people that got caught in there, and where are their guns and shit? Like, I got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
That whole thing with just that whole angle with the cops getting trapped underground makes no fucking sense. And like, the SWAT team would have had grenades and shit, right? Like,
surely. Yeah.
So they couldn't blast their way out of one of those.
Yeah. Even if at first they think it's a bad idea, I guarantee you after a week they're like, okay, we got to try something.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole part of this movie, I can't forgive it. It's awful to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure they could have found another way to write around that, but it's whatever. So the ending of this movie is another point of contention that a lot of people have, me included. Now, I know because you enlightened me, Bruce survived the blast because he's Batman, and and he happens to go to the same cafe with Catwoman. They both go to the same cafe that Alfred is at, and they do the thing that Alfred daydreamed about and wanted Bruce to do.
They go to this cafe every day, just waiting for Alfred to show up.
Yeah, he's going to be here one day, trust me. Yeah. And it's also good that no one recognizes billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Well, I mean, of course they don't. He's dead.
Yeah, okay, so.
But, so here's the thing. Is like, I am okay with the whole, like, is my preferred ending for this movie for him to really sacrifice himself? Maybe, right? Mm-hmm. I'm okay with not loving that he survived. What I'm not okay with and what I won't tolerate is like, is the intention of the movie that he survived? And it clearly is. If Inception didn't come out right before this, no one would have been like, oh yeah, he's got a fucking Inception moment at the end, blah, 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 blah. No, like the movie clearly intends for you to 100% understand that he survived. Like that's the intent of the film.
And you're right. The problem is it's a better ending if that's not the intent.
Agreed. But then you just don't put that scene in, and you definitely don't put in the whole Bruce Wayne fixed the autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah. And my problem with that is like, okay, he fixed the autopilot, but he was in the fucking thing. He was in the fucking bat. Well, into like the blast radius zone. So even if he did eject those cuz out of it, like it wouldn't have saved him. And the issue here is that like the way that it's shot, we see Bruce flying, and we see that the thing at one point has, I think, like 15 seconds on it, and in the backdrop of that shot, you see Batman sitting in the bat, but in the background you see the city of Gotham, like you see buildings he's flying by, so he's not at a point where if he ejected, he would have been in the city. We would have seen, but he was way past that when he could have ejected.
Well, there is, I think, some science to support that if the shit detonated in the air well above the water, and he had dove into the water, he could have possibly survived. Assuming that like this is a modern day like clean bomb that's not going to put out a fuck ton of radiation.
Which I think it probably would, because its intent isn't to be a bomb.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they don't ever get into the
That's true.
fucking nuclear physics of it, and I'm not willing to.
Even though I guarantee you, Nolan probably really wanted to.
Yeah, he probably did. Yeah, he's like, yeah, we could do a scene where Bane explains all that shit. No.
Yeah. Would you have ever wanted to see a fourth movie?
I would want to see a fourth movie, but if you do a fourth movie, you don't end this one the way that this one ends.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the way I would have done it where Bruce survives is like, you see him in it, and he does that scene where he like shoots the building, and you see the explosion, and then you see the bat like fly over the bridge or whatever, and then you don't fucking cut back to the inside where he's in it.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you're like, oh, well, he jumped out on the building.
Right.
And then he engaged the autopilot, and it flew the thing out there. Yeah. So you never see him again.
That would have been much better.
It would have been a much better way to do it.
Yeah.
And then I think you don't put the Alfred scene in or any of that shit. I think that if you're going to do a fourth movie, you have the explosion, you have the funeral scene and all that, and then maybe like Alfred goes back into the Batcave, and he's like about to maybe there's like a self-destruct or something he's going to enact, and like the code doesn't work or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe he like goes upstairs and Bruce is just up there reading the paper or whatever.
Right.
Like something like that. Like that would have been such a great, a great way to do it. If you're going to do a fourth one, obviously the movie that everybody, that we're never going to get is, DiCaprio Riddler.
Yeah.
We're never going to get that, unfortunately, unless I don't think there's an age limit on what you can do with that. Like, I think even 10 years from now, James Gunn can still pull that shit off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I don't know if he wants to do a superhero movie.
Yeah. You mean DiCaprio or Nolan?
DiCaprio. Again? Oh, definitely no Nolan. Yeah. But I can't imagine a superhero movie that Nolan would do.
Yeah. That's a tough sell for Nolan, I think. As far as DiCaprio goes, looking at like his filmography, he hasn't really done anything kind of teetering on that. But I'm like, I don't know why he wouldn't. Yeah. Like it'd be great if he did. Yeah.
I think he would have done it for Nolan.
Yeah.
But DiCaprio has been like almost exclusively working with like these really classical directors. He's done a bunch of Scorsese movies.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. True. Man, I think if I had the option of how to end Rises, I think that's where I really would have leaned into The Dark Knight Returns, because at that movie, it looks like Bruce Wayne is dead.
Right.
But then come to find out, he actually lived and he's working underground now. So he's technically not actively being Batman, but he's working underground with like these group of resistance people. Blake could have been one of those people, and so I think that's a way for him to utilize his resources without being Batman. And I don't know, I think it would have been a bit of a cleaner ending than, autopilot, nuke, didn't he die, thing.
I mean, honestly, like, if you look at it, maybe not a fourth movie, but maybe, the way that this goes, like, Man of Steel had actually been in this universe. Right? And then if they would have done Batman versus Superman right after that, then it would have been earned a lot more than it was.
Yeah.
Where you've got Bale's Batman, he's been underground.
Right.
They think he's dead. And then he's like, it's fucking aliens now? Like, And he literally comes back with the purpose of putting this motherfucker in the ground.
Right.
Like,
because he's seen what's happened with all these, with the, with Bane or with Ra's al Ghul or with Joker. Like, the last thing we need now, we can't take the risk after it.
Right.
Let that paranoia creep in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to drive him to rage, maybe fucking Michael Caine gets killed in the Zod fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just full tilt. Like,
right.
They could have done so much with that if they wanted to, like, kind of build off of this continuity.
Yeah.
But obviously DC didn't have the foresight to do that shit.
Yeah, no, they didn't have the foresight to do a lot of things.
Yeah. But then again, maybe it's gonna turn out that in the end that it was worth it to fucking get James Gunn's DC universe.
Yeah. I mean, boy, they had to learn some hard lessons to get to that point. But yeah. So yeah, I guess like before we wrap up here, man, what are your overall thoughts and feelings about this trilogy?
Man, this trilogy. Is it the best Batman trilogy we're ever going to get in our lifetimes? Probably.
It's highly likely. Right.
I mean, I have a lot of faith in Matt Reeves, but I don't know what they do with a 2 and a 3, and I don't know how, with all the changes and things that are going on at Warner Brothers, can Matt Reeves really, truly live in his own little corner of it and not be influenced heavily by studios and not be, obstructed? I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah. If it's going to be any trilogy, it's going to be Matt Reeves that tops it. His is the only one that could possibly do it.
I agree, because he has such a love for the character and like the story he's wanting to tell. I know the Batman is divisive, but I don't know. Like, for everything I really love about the Batman, there's something I really hate about it. But that's a whole different fucking podcast. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't see that trilogy in my eyes living up to this one. But I do think if it is really good, I think I could objectively look at it and say that. Is this one of the greatest like movie trilogies ever? I think so. Regardless of whether you think the third act is like really weak or not, it still wraps up the story very well. Most of the sins of this movie are limited to this movie. It's not a Star Wars thing where it like ruins itself,
Right.
Like our main 3, or really even 4, if you count Lucius, Gordon, Alfred, Batman.
Yeah.
Their arcs are all great. There's never a point where they aren't. This may be the only movie in the trilogy where, Batman is the most interesting character in the movie the whole time.
I would argue Bane is, but
I could see that, but to me, Bane only matters because of the threat he imposes to Batman in this movie. But I get where you're coming from. Like, he is an interesting character and has depth to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll be honest. When he shows back up at the end of the movie, when Batman shows back up at the end,
yeah,
that's always just such a fucking great, like, triumphant moment. It's done really well.
He knows there's only like 18 hours before this bomb goes off. This motherfucker takes the time to make a fucking back signal.
Right.
We ain't got time for this, Bruce.
Right? Yeah, we only got a couple hours, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah. Man, I think that the Dark Knight trilogy, man, I think it's timeless.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. I don't think that it's perfect, man, but I think it's close enough, you know. And while I know that they only remember the finish, and that you know, I know that you really enjoy this movie, but a lot of people consider this to be the weak point of the trilogy. I do as well, consider it to be the weak point of the trilogy. But even still, it's not that there's not some things in this movie that can be enjoyed. There's a lot of things in this film that I really enjoy.
It's got a Killer Croc reference.
It's got a Killer Croc reference in it. Okay. All right. And we don't know what John Daggett did with his company. He could have made a Clayface accidentally. We don't know.
I still think that Clayface is such a great villain that they could explore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many good like Batman villains that if done correctly, I mean, a great and this is not me trying to McConaughey you, but like Mr. Freeze is definitely one of them. You know what I mean?
Matt Reeves, I think at some point should do both of them. I think that those two characters in that type setting would be phenomenal. Yeah, we really dig to see that. Love to see that. And also now, not to get off on the Matt Reeves Batman tangent, but now I feel that like the onus to do a Batman Robin movie is no longer on Matt Reeves,
right?
Because they're doing that in the DCU,
and that's honestly was one of my biggest complaints always about about his Bruce Wayne and about just the casting in general for that. Even though what the fuck is his name? I can't.
Pattinson?
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. I think he's an amazing actor, and I think he does a great job, but it's like I could never see this person fostering a Robin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the character Batman himself has to grow a little bit more before I can even see that as a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the only one I can see having a Robin so far is Affleck.
Yeah.
And he let that one die, so off screen, we never got to see.
Yeah, we don't even know which one it was.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I really do I think that them going the Bat family, right? Because that's always been my biggest criticism of the live actions. Is like the Bat family, the only fucking movie that even begins to explore that shit is Batman Forever. And I think that might be why I still love that movie so much. Because fucking Chris O'Donnell actually was amazing.
He was a really good 25-year-old orphan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, technically, fucking Bruce is like a 35-year-old orphan.
I mean, yeah, but
you're still an orphan. It doesn't matter how old you are. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, it'd be different if like Alfred just adopted Bruce. You're like, yeah, yeah, man. I love the Dark Knight trilogy. And, I think that people should really go back and look at this trilogy as a whole and see that, man, there's a whole cohesive story they're trying to tell here with these three movies, which is really impressive when you consider that when they made Batman Begins, they didn't plan on making The Dark Knight. And when they made The Dark Knight, they didn't plan on making Dark Knight Rises. And so you consider that what they did with those three movies is a pretty incredible feat. Are there issues to overlook throughout? Sure, but man, is there a hell of a story to be told. And I thoroughly enjoyed these past 3 weeks watching these movies with you, man, and reviewing them.
Hell yeah. It's been really great. I think watching Dark Knight was probably my favorite experience just because of like kind of our commentary when we were watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was just great. I really enjoyed that. And, these movies are always going to have a special place with me. I mean, not only because it's a Batman trilogy, but also, like, we're both fans of basically Nolan's entire body of work.
Oh, yeah.
I just read earlier, this is a random thing, but, or as Brendan would say, fun fact. Oppenheimer is going to be his longest film yet. And
really?
He's confirmed that. and Interstellar is 2 hours and 49 minutes. So,
I was gonna say, like, it has to be clocking in at like 3 hours then.
yeah. But apparently they haven't revealed the official length because get this, the cut's not done. Like he's not actually settled on a cut yet.
What studio is making Oppenheimer?
I mean, it's got to be WB, right?
I thought he was done.
Oh
with
yeah,
WB.
that's right. That's true. He might be done with them. I wonder if he's if Syncope is just making it themselves.
Oh,
if that's no, it's being distributed by Universal.
Okay, wow. Oh yeah, we see how Universal treats. I'm sure that any studios will welcome Christopher Nolan with open arms.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that. But hell, in a couple of weeks, we're gonna go see technically we're gonna see Batman again and The Flash.
Oh yeah. I'm really excited for that, man, but I just I really fucking hate that Keaton is playing Bruce Wayne. Like, to me, that just does not make any fucking sense at all, and I really hate it. And the fact that it's just being done as a nostalgia play for Keaton Batman, it makes me fucking hate the concept. But then, like, the fact that we're gonna get Kara and Zod and all that shit, and like at least a somewhat kind of deal with Flashpoint, and possibly a lot of fucking teasers and Easter eggs and shit, and maybe like a rewriting of the DC universe or the DCEU as it is, I guess, up until that movie, and some cool Batfleck stuff too. Yeah. So I don't know. You can't do the letter.
No. It'd be weird if like older Bruce wrote a letter to younger Bruce. They might try to get that off. I don't know.
They might, but you know that's the money shot for me.
Yeah, it is, and it's such a great part of that story, you know. Yeah, man. So like, I agree with you. I would have preferred Thomas Wayne be in this movie primarily. But man, like nostalgic tendencies are always going to win now because Hollywood knows that it works for the most part. And so I understand why they're keeping, why they're bringing back Keaton as Batman, because now technically you potentially tap into like an entire demographic who grew up with that Batman, And so I get it. And I myself, I'm a fan of his Batman. So it is going to be fun to see him back again. But would I prefer to Thomas Wayne? Yeah, I would have.
What if like everything they shot for the trailer is bullshit and he really is just playing Thomas Wayne? God, we get in there and like in the movie he's got the red suit and shit. Oh my God, dude, I would lose it, but I'm not going to be that hopeful.
That's another thing though that the DCEU kind of dropped the ball on. They had Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne and never did anything with it.
And he would have been the best fucking Flashpoint Batman.
Yes, would have been so good, but I guess we'll never fucking know,
Maybe Snyder was going to do something with it in like Justice League 2, or something.
I can see that with where he was going with the Flash. Yeah, it's possible.
Because they totally could have done a Flashpoint in between. Like, they could have done it as because like I totally could have seen them doing Justice League 2. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, Barry, like they make you think they're going to end it the same way one ended with Barry going back in time, but he straight up fucks it up.
Right.
And then we get a Flashpoint movie right after that, in between 2 and 3. I think that would have been great.
That would have been great. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have loved to see that. But yeah, I think that this is where we're going to go ahead and end this one, guys. This has been a blast, though, man.
Hell of a ride.
Hell of a fucking ride, man. Hell of a trilogy. And I'm glad that you're able to do this with me.
And now we have a trilogy.
Yeah. Yes. The Homie Knights trilogy. I don't know. I think a better name.
It's like, yo, dog, I heard you like trilogies, so we made a trilogy about your trilogy.
Right.
Trilogyception,
yeah. Now like an Evolve review or Entertainment Evolve, you have to do Lord of the Rings trilogy. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to find someone who will actually watch that with me.
Oh man, if only you could find someone.
Yeah, I mean, Kay will watch it with me anytime. So there is that. Oh, you mean like you'll watch it with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like we're that one, we are not going to do this where we like watch it and then immediately do the episode. We gotta like watch it on like a Monday and then like do the episode on like a Tuesday.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
because these movies are already pushing it as it is.
Yeah, Return of the King is like 4.5 hours.
God damn.
Yeah, but I would totally be down for it. Maybe we could do it like right before Rings of Power season 2 comes out, you know, and then we could watch Rings of Power.
I feel like that's a terrible idea.
Oh, you think it's a bad idea to watch like Lord of the Rings before we watch like horridly brought to life $1 billion fan fiction?
Yeah.
When I think about Rings of Power and what costs less than it, they spent like $700 million on 8 episodes of television.
That's just gratuitous.
It's absolute dog shit. Anyway, I don't want to end this on that note, but yes, I would be thrilled to do an involved review of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm going to tell you right now, though, I'm not fucking sitting through the Hobbit movies, though, so don't even suggest that shit. I watched the first and the third one time each.
Oh, you haven't even seen the second one?
No, I like the second one. I've seen the second one a couple times. It's not as good as the first 3, any of them. I put it above the theatrical cut of Fellowship.
Okay.
But oh my God, fuck the first movie and definitely fuck the third movie. I don't even count. The third movie is just laughably bad in The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's an example of not how to make a good trilogy.
They had Manu Benet.
They did
on set.
And chose to
make him a fucking CG caricature.
Yeah. I'm like, that you could just put some prosthetics on him, right, and be right at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a soulless trilogy is what it felt like to me.
It is fucking soulless.
Yeah.
I can understand if you like cast Danny DeVito or whatever and then you CG the character, but like, motherfucker, like, oh my God, like I don't want to. Yeah. I can't do this.
Well, homies, on that note, thank you guys for joining us. This has been an amazing 3 weeks for us, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed this as well. Batman's an amazing character, and thankfully he has some amazing movies, and we were able to really dig deep into the Dark Knight trilogy and talk about it from all aspects, from a philosophical standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, character development standpoint, and all other ways. So this has been amazing for us, and thank you guys again for listening in. You guys are amazing. Go ahead and rate and review both the Superhero Homies and Entertainment Evolve. That really helps us out a lot. And also be sure to check out the Patreon page as well. That also does a whole lot here for me and to help keep this thing going. So thank you guys again. That's going to be all for now. But until next time, my name is Superhero Homie Q.
And I'm Superhero Homie Caleb.